so we were at 7 o'clock. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you want to join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. My first public comment is next, and let's remind everybody we have 3 minutes per person. We're asking that you come to the front of the room with the microphone. Yes.
Dave Reinhardt from Conway Road. At the last planning commission meeting, I'm very concerned that they're not getting enough direction and really not looking for the residents of Sylvan Township. One example was the Robin Hills person who was here for, I guess, really checking what have you. And they were trying to, I've never been to Robin Hills. But they were, they wanted to plan some events. 2 of them never made it past one of them to. One of the other ones, he asked, is it possible that I can plan an event for January? And no, you really can't, because you have to apply the same year that you have this case. Now that seems that I can't believe that's really true. I haven't gone through the ordinances and everything, but the planning and zoning person who responded to this said, well, possibly you apply late. And he goes, okay, so there's a way to have a January event. And then the planning and zoning person said, now you are trying to put me in the corner. So no, you cannot, you have to apply in January in the same year as the event. To me, the person being, or company, business being put in the corner was Robin Hills. It's not Sylvan Township. They're the ones who, if they wanted, let's say it was a New Year's Day event, it's impossible. They're not. Call a planning commission meeting like midnight January 1st to have an event January 1st. So something is wrong there, and what's really wrong is the response given by the planning and zoning person. Secondly, they also made Robin Hills hire our Midwest consulting engineer to stand in the parking lot to make sure the parking lot doesn't get muddy, people don't get stuck. Now, if I'm a business and I'm Robin Hills, I sure as heck would make sure people don't get stuck because they're not. But this was the kind of approach planning commission and zoning person was advocating and putting it to a very patient Robin Hills representative. Along those same lines, a lot of residents want to get into solar. That is happening everywhere. And somehow the simple request to define how residents can put solar on their houses has now expanded to include all sorts of alternate types of energy. And also, there was a tie into dark skies, and the planning commission said, and if I'm wrong on this, correct me or look at the data. The planning commission said, well, we better start with dark skies. The windmills would have lights on top, and we'd have to figure it out from there. And that's not even touching the solar business. This will never, ever get done. And lastly, I worked with indirectly with Rick Clements, whose resignation letter is in this packet. He seems very calm, cool, good guy. I'm very disappointed and worried that why he would leave. And I worked directly with Kimberly. I worked with Woodhill. They've been good listeners. They were, I thought, very good at their jobs. And they have, Kimberly's still here. Woodhill's gone. The master planning consultant doesn't want anything to do with Sylvan Township. Those are pretty worrying things as a resident. And lastly, I don't know what's changed here to make all this happen, but during the last year or two, whether it's people or systems or whatever, like something has changed and we're not headed for the better. So Thanks for the time, and I please get some control over the company, some of the people. Thank you.
Yes, Richard.
Well, I have to say that, I was planning to put big lights on my solar panels so that I can get some energy at nighttime. But I hope you don't believe that. I want to make another note about the Robin Hills Farm thing too. Even though I wasn't planning to say this. It reminded me. It turns out that through all that discussion at the planning commission, Midwestern Consulting got the job to make an assessment of, I believe it was the parking lot after the first event. And it's kind of interesting because Midwestern Consulting reviews the event plan and then creates the need to make this assessment, which they end up getting the contract for. I felt uncomfortable with that. But anyway, not that it's wrong necessarily. But I would second what Mr. Reinhardt said about the actual need to make an assessment of somebody's parking lot. Somebody who's in business in the community and obviously wants to please their customers anyway. I've gotten an inquiry from another resident about the status of the broadband implementation in Sylvan Township, and I'm wondering if there's any update available that any of the board members may know. About whether the timing of that has changed in Sylvan Township. I think it was October of 2024, which is next year. But if somebody might want to address that in the board comment section, that'd be very nice. Then I can get back to this person. In the minutes from the last board meeting, in which my rezoning application was considered, I believe a correction is needed in the comments that I made. It says here on page 7, the second paragraph in the middle of it, Ziski didn't think it would be a big deal to add 2 or 3 homes, but understood why it might be a big deal to some. I think that last part of me understanding why it's a big deal, I think I meant to say the opposite, is that I don't understand why it's a big deal to anybody, except for us, the project itself, of course. I don't know. I just want to say that for the record that was not my intention. If I did say that, I certainly intended to say the opposite. That I don't understand why it would be a big deal to anybody else. Oh, and one more thing. Something that's on the agenda tonight under unfinished business. The whole issue of paying off the debt to the county and/or paying down the bond and that whole thing. I don't know if you have any new information to bear, but I would like, as part of that agenda item, if somebody in the discussion could give an update on whether any discussions have taken place with the county or with the lawyer that you can disclose, or anybody about the mechanics of how our funds might be applied to the county advances on one hand, or the debt obligation on the other hand. Either indirectly or directly. It's good to see that some attention is being given to this issue, and I hope we just stay on it. Because I think I'm saying this on behalf of most of the taxpayers. We want to make sure their tax money is only being spent to the extent that it's needed. And the township is still collecting the tax money. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make sure I saw, I think I see we were talking about the top of page 7 on minutes. But he understood why it. Well, so you felt like it should say that you didn't understand.
And I didn't.
Okay.
But I understand, we'll make a note of it, that wasn't your intent.
I haven't said that. In there.
Right.
We'll make a note that that's not.
Yeah, I wanted.
Yeah,
I wanted to
We'll be in
say
these
that I-
minutes.
Okay, other public comment? Yes.
Brett Cooper, Ridge Road. Uh, Couple times, in the past, Patrick has brought up, the repayment of the bonds. And a couple times in the past, I have also brought up to individual board members and Patrick and members of this group, citing that, back in 2003, 4, 5, for like about 8-10 years. Offset money was used from the water or from this lake sewer to pay for the water. To the tune of about $800,000. Before all this money gets spent in the sewer funds. The lakes board, the lakes funds needs to be reimbursed the $800,000. Before those funds are empty, before the county paid off, before anything else. Number two, Patrick, you had an open letter in the Times about your land. And that is in here, I guess, tonight, and I don't wanna revisit it. But you also had an open letter in your Sylvan newsletter about Robin Hills Farms being treated shabbily because they were turned down for the fireworks. And compared it to the Bollinger's getting it, and you felt like they were treated unfairly. I think you need to take into perspective, and I think the board needs to take this into perspective too, is that for years, Bollinger's did it out of goodness of their heart, and they weren't charging anybody any money. They didn't ask for anything. All of a sudden, Robin Hills Farms comes forward after not doing one of the things that they're required to do the last 4 or 5 years. They've totally gotten away from their format, and now they come forward wanting to hold fireworks. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna make money off of food, alcohol, parking. I don't think they should be rewarded for their bad behavior. I think they're a good business in what they do, but I think there is a time when, until somebody starts earning their just desserts, that to just simply reward them for doing nothing is not in good character. Secondly, in regards to your property, I don't know if I read it correctly, but you made mention in the open letter in the Times that there's co-ownership in this property, co-investment, co-dispersal of funds from the crops in this. And I could be wrong, but I think so far, I think you were beneficial in being turned down, and I think you should be continue to be turned down, because I think some of the stuff you outlined there borders on, you need to prepare some bylaws similar to a condo association, where you're gonna have funds available for the future. And there's gonna be a means for people to divorce themselves of your property, divorce themselves of their rights of farming, and somebody else to take over those rights. And it's not clear how it's defined. And the planning commission should be aware of that, and this board should be aware. It's more like the condo association that he's planning, and not just a couple of homes. Lastly, in here is an outline of some of the things that happened at the last meeting with myself. And specifically the supervisor. The board and the supervisor should know that when you call out a member by name or by former office, make false claims according to Robert's Rules of Order and whatnot, you are obligated to let me have my say. Supreme Court upheld New York Times versus Sullivan. First Amendment rights. And when you call me out by a job or by a position and saying, supervisors never had to do this before, the supervisors never put up with this before, the supervisors didn't do this, guess what? You're making a statement about me and I have a right to defend myself.
Thank you. Yes.
There will be a point of comment at the end of the.
Yes, yes, we still have public comment. at the end.
I've used that time to explain some of the things that's not.
Well, your 3 minutes are, I called you out by name, you're.
If I have 1 minute remaining, I think I'm doing.
I haven't honestly been keeping track of people's minutes, so if you want to object to 1 minute. Patrick,
And I'm saying I don't know.
Right, that's why I want to do it.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Take another.
I'll clarify briefly. I do think this is important, especially since it's been raised and recommended to the planning commission to hear as well. In reality, even though this was not part of the rezoning application, the route that we are planning to take is to develop this as a site condominium with bylaws. And that will be evident as we move forward through the process. Rezoning doesn't depend on, the structure of the community organization. But I think I should just clarify that it is indeed our intention to do that. Very similar to what Scott mentioned. And the co-ownership of the property and farm, which was another part of the concern. There will indeed be required minimum share ownership of the farm. At least as per our current plan, which could still change. But the properties themselves, the home sites, are going to be developed just like any other site condominium that you've heard of, maybe, well, with different bylaws perhaps. But the sites will be privately owned. And they'll have separate tax parcel IDs. It is indeed our intention to create the number of residential units that we're allowed to create. Whether that is 9 or 10 or the 12 that we were hoping for. And they will be individual lots sold to individual homeowners. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Ryan from Planning Road. First of all, I'm so looking forward to Patrick's community across the street from us. To be able to see how cool this is gonna be. They can get some, gets to finish that in the not too distant future. I am a member of I'm a trustee of the Chelsea District Library, and I know Susan Lasky is our representative for some that I'm in the at-large member. But I really wanted a chance to tell everyone, if you haven't heard already, that at our next meeting, July 11th, the Chelsea District Library bookmobile is coming here. And it's just so wonderful. But CDL is the best library around. I mean, it's really a fabulous operation. And I really see the MOBI, as they're calling it, as a chance to connect more with the townships, to really, they're very open to ideas about, homework help, what are the ways? I was even wondering if, when we get to a master plan someday, that whether that would be a place that members, residents could go and fill out the surveys. So I just think there are lots of things that we can start thinking about that could really help, since we're, not in the city, the ways that we've talked about. It's so hard to know what a common area is and all of that. So I just wanted to be sure that's, that's in our minutes, that it's in everybody's consciousness, and that we really support them, because I think that they will support us in a positive way. And I also agree with everything my husband said. Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right, thank you, Wendy, for bringing that up, and I will mention just to say that at 6 o'clock, the mobile library unit will be here from 6 to 7 before the next meeting, and the first Tuesday in July is the 4th, so the board meeting will be the 11th. So come a little early and check it out, it's really an amazing vehicle unit they've got there. So they're happy to come out and have sort of a open house here for Silver Township on that. All right, if we're done with public comment, we'll move forward with the consent agenda, which includes the approval of a couple minutes. Oh, yeah, they're both on the 9th. I thought that was a typo. We did have 2 meetings that day. May 9th meeting, presentation of bills, correspondence, committee reports. I would like to just pull out the correspondence and address that at new business. There a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. Motion from Rod.
Support.
Thank you. Support from Sandy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Thank you. Now we move to the regular agenda. I'll just add discussion of correspondence under new business. Anybody have any other items to add?
I'd like to add an item on the poll.
Okay,
The second item. We'll pull that, the move funds for special sewer to pay down bond. Those monies have been invested. It's making a lot more money.
so you would just like to remove that item
Just remove that.
from the agenda?
Yep.
Entirely. All right, so we have the agenda with the addition of the discussion of correspondence and removing the second item under unfinished business. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Your support?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Thank you. All right, so then the first item is Washtenaw County bond contribution. I believe I copied out the entire board on an email I wrote to Mr. Sweeney and Tina Cavalier from Washtenaw County Finance, who are the individuals we've met with in the past to discuss the bond, and I have not heard back from them. I think it was last week or I think it was last week that I was so that I will follow up on that, and what that will entail is just us having having a meeting together and discussing what to do, what we might be able to do to pay off the advance or pay off the principal. Also, last month we discussed getting in touch with the bond council. Our attorney suggested we reach out to the bond council, and I did confirm through the municipal finance, Stephen Burke, who works there, did confirm that John Axe of Clark Hill was the bond counsel, as Mr. Fall indicated, he's semi-retired. And when we did the refunding last year, there was an attorney named Mr. Eklund who zoomed in and answered questions we had. So now that we're confirming that that's him, I wrote to Mr. Fall. I asked if he would like to contact the bond council or if I should. He left it up to me. I think I'll get the conversation started and make sure the attorney's copied on the email so they can talk attorney talk when it comes to that. But I'll move that forward and get in contact with those attorneys and copy our attorney, and then we'll be able to determine whether there was any bond language that required us to use tap fees for the bond. Does that sound like that addresses the concerns there? Okay. So then I guess I will just make a motion to table this item.
I'll second.
Supported by Rod. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Next item was removed, actually the team building proposal from Lou Bender. I think last time we were going to see if he was interested in doing, a training with the staff. That's not really how he likes to approach things, so he was standing by his proposal that he had given us before, which was just the board, involved in team training. And it was $3,000 and mileage for him, and I think he lives around Cadillac. So, I kind of talked a little bit with Sandy, and Sandy has had strong feelings about making sure the entire staff is in. And when Lou said he wants to continue in the vein he works, we decided maybe it would be best to just move on. There's other people who are local. Both the skulls that work here mentioned that they had worked with someone while they were in Saline, a local person. So if anyone has recommendations of new team builders, somebody local who could come in and just, we're looking for a day with all the staff, we'll continue to look. But in terms of this agenda item specifically referencing Lou Bender, I would like to remove this item from our agenda as well. So I'll make a motion that we remove the team training from Lou Bender.
Support.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. So motion by me, supported by Sandy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. New business. So I think it was last year, Trustee Kosek asked whether we should be approving the millage rates that are assessed. And there's a form that's the L4029 that goes to the county. And they are requesting it now. This includes the millage rates that we will levy. We don't really have a say in these millage rates right now, the 4.4, and then the operating bill is what it is, and it has to be rolled back. There's a lot of information from our assessor in here that if you ever wanted to learn about formulas and how they crunch these numbers, she would be happy to tell you all about it. But for today's purpose, we just wanted it reflected in the minutes that the board acknowledged our operating millage of 0.9329 and the debt millage of 4.4 mils. I don't think there's a motion there needed. It's just information on everybody's understanding that those are the I would like to make a motion to acknowledge the 2023 tax millage rates as presented on the L4029. That just be nice to have something. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. There's. This is a really fast meeting tonight. So I just wanted to call attention quickly to the correspondence from my deputy, not my deputy anymore, Rick Clement, who decided he hardly had even put in any hours and decided to resign for a couple reasons. And one of them is that he's out of state a lot. He's living part-time in Arizona, sort of does a snowbird thing. But also that he has been frustrated and feeling a lack of kindness in the community, in the office. And I'm sad about that as well. You know, he did enjoy working with me over the past 9 years and wishes us nothing but success. But it's unfortunate, and he was a real asset to Sylvan Township. And I hope that we can find ways to engage with each other that aren't divisive, and that we're all working for the best of the community. And I hope we can just all acknowledge and hold that in our hearts as we deal with each other. So that is all I had to say. We are at 7:30 at our second public comment of the night. That's Patrick.
I think I would like to thank Kathy for following up with the county about repayment of our debt obligations. I also want to make sure that we evaluate the full range of possibilities to do that. And I didn't see the letter, I can't comment on it, but I understand that we can't directly pay off the bond principal before it's due. However, what really matters, I think, to many people is that if we have the money that we're capable of setting aside somehow and designating for that purpose, I don't know how to set this aside, that's a big question. Then can it be designated or earmarked somehow? So that the county can be assured that we're going to make the payments on the schedule. And thus there would be no need to continue collecting the 4.4 mils. I think that's really the crux of the issue. Since the bond is non-callable, you can't just pay it off, right? But that's a big decision. We can always say when we reach that point, we can always say, oh yeah, if the township hung on to the money, we could invest it better, then that may be true. But I would say letting go of the 4.4 means that the township residents have more of their own money that they can invest in the way that they want to. And that's getting closer to the principle of the matter. So what else? There was, I want to say a few more words about the legal structure of the community that I'm working on. Because I want to be very careful with what I say, since I'm saying it in public. I also may be taking on additional equity partners in the business in managed development. And it is possible, that those people will also be residents of the community at the same time. So when I say everybody's just buying their individual lot and they're not part of the company, that may or may not be the case, depending on what happens. It's also possible the same person could be a member of the development company, a resident with their own private lot, and a part-time farmer getting paid by the farmer too. All three of these things. All these permutations are possible. I don't want to say anything that will cut off possibilities. And the other things I said at the beginning of the meeting, at this stage, really are tentative. As far as being a site condo and everything, I understand that it is possible under the open space ordinance to develop this as a site condominium project and have a community water system, since that's in the open space ordinance now. So that was always our preferred route, and that's probably what we're going to do, unless we find an unforeseen roadblock. So this is my way of qualifying my earlier statements. Unless there's an unforeseen roadblock. What else? There was something else. Oh, yes. On the subject of the FOIA policy, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning. I understand that from reading the board comments in the board packet, that there were 2 FOIA requests in the last month, I believe. Yeah. I'd be interested to know if you can disclose it, what those FOIA requests were about and how much was charged for those people.
Not charged. One was called Open Books, which is just looking at our like our wages. And then I think another one was a property on Kavanaugh Lake Road. People will FOIA, like if there's any presence on the property. If there's been issues, if there's zoning issues. It's just
So there was no fee necessary. It's good to hear, and I hope,
Easier.
I hope I wasn't at the meeting on June first, but I hope that we have a policy that still allows those kinds of small FOIA requests without charge. Thank you.
I was gonna say you have to fill out a FOIA request to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Patrick's comments are good, that that's all part of it. But I'm not so sure that there isn't a little cart before the horse here. And that all of those things should really be out, fully vetted, new partners and all of that. Upon application, because rolling that stuff out after the fact, after maybe approval or disapproval or whatever. Leaves a lot of rocks up there. I mean, that's, and I don't know if our zoning or ordinance speak directly to how that should be done. And as he says, in a site condo approval, whether those board documents need to be out there. Also looking back over here, the notes, following up on the last meeting. I think the board is going to look at some, new ordinances or postings. And I think that if we're going to have an HR department, I think it has to be determined what kind of metrics each of those employees are going to be put under. I think we should see what those metrics are, how those employees will be judged. How it'll be determined on their yearly interviews or bi-yearly interviews to see if they're towing the mark, making success, improving their position. Because without that, we can't really find out if anybody's on track. So I think each position has to have some metrics that are outlined.
Patrick,
Very. The internal structure of my company or the legal organization that we have a plan for the site condominium or the bylaws. Certainly none of those things were required to be disclosed during the rezoning process. As far as the next step, which would be the site plan review process, I understand that some aspects of it do need to be disclosed. Probably not the internal structure of the company, but some of the other things do have to be disclosed. I understand that, and you can certainly read the township ordinances to see what that is. The open space ordinance that was passed in December outlines some of the specific process for open space development, which I intend.
any more comments? Yes, Paige.
Just had to add, as frustrated as I've been with the planning and zoning that's gone on here in the past few years, I have to commend our assessor department, Catherine Skull and her assistant Susan. I sit on the board review, and Ruben Lesser, who was here, who sits on the board as well. And Catherine has put together a mix of people who lived here a long time, farmers, so on and so forth. She's accurate, transparent, which everyone wants transparency. And above all, her last thing, or really the first thing she considers, if there's any doubt or which way to go, it's always in favor of the resident. Always. That is her approach, and she knows that's why she's there, and she should be working for them. So we have something really good there, and I think everybody knows. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any public comments? Board of Trustee comments? Yes, Andy.
So at our special meeting, we were talking about what to do with the ARPA funds. And I don't know about you, but twice this year I lost electricity in my house and there is no safe place to go. There's no place that I can go as, you know, as warming center. And this was not my idea originally, it was somebody else's, which I thought was a brilliant idea. Why don't we look at this big building? And come up with a way of making good power. So one is to provide a respite for somebody who doesn't have power at their house. So one of the ways to do that is to do a like a whole house natural gas generator. But I've been going to I've been on 2 tours of solar and wind generation. We're not talking about anything except the difference in the 2 methods and all that stuff. But we've not talked about anything that and of course I don't know anything about it, but I do know that Scioto Township's new fire station has solar panels. I'm assuming that you have to have battery because we haven't gotten that far into the discussion. So I sent an email, an article to the rest of the board about it and said, we need to think about this, you know, why just get a natural gas generator when our county wants to be, you know, is trying very hard to be on track to reduce their carbon footprint and with churches, because churches don't pay taxes. If you in your house, you have a solar array and you're providing some power to your house, you may get a tax break. But because churches don't pay any taxes in the first place, they've been working on how to monetize that so that the church actually gets money. So there's a possibility because we're a municipal building that we might get some money back, but I wouldn't count on it. But so I had a conversation probably 2 months ago with somebody who's very much involved in this, and it was so complicated I didn't understand a thing he said, except his group is available for consultation. And you know, you don't actually have to know stuff, you just have to know people who have the answers to your questions. And so I would like to try and contact him and get some more information to try to get an idea of what it would cost to do that, to make this a place of refuge during horrible weather. I mean, like, not only just cold weather, but during hot also. No, it doesn't mean we're never gonna have a tornado. And where are you gonna go? You know, there's 2 hotels.
Right, even in our last power outage, we were out at home in our house for 4 or 5 days. And you can't flush the toilet and you can't run the water, and we got 4 kids, and that's not good. So we would love somewhere to wash your hands and at least get some water. I think that's a great idea. And we have talked for a long time about a generator, but I am intrigued with the idea of doing something alternative here. And you're right, I just reached out actually to the deputy county administrator today to see if I can get an update on the Washtenaw County's climate program. So yes, he said it was approved by the commissioners in December of last year, and they're trying to put together an office right now that is really going to work on that and have a person who would be a liaison with the townships to see how they could help us implement some of these things.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is awesome. So we'll find out who that is and who everybody. It's great.
I could address Patrick's a little bit on his broadband stuff. Question, Chris Scherer, he has a Facebook page for the Washtenaw County Broadband. And he was asking for up and down speeds, for people to post and where they were at and who their supplier was. And he said that things are moving along, and he gave the path of where it's gonna be coming, it'll hit Sylvan Township on this end first as it comes through. And he said it's progressing well, and then the timelines could move up a little bit. But until things really get progressing, he doesn't know that.
I mean, they could actually, the timeline could actually shorten.
Could. Could. But like I said, he won't know until things really start progressing.
And I haven't looked at that, where are they now? Are they in Manchester?
Yeah.
They're starting in Manchester, and coming this
Manchester
way.
is working this way.
Are some people turned on already?
I think Jared, it's Jared's last name, it's different, it's Washington Fiber, it's not through OVC. I believe that his customers have received.
And one of the wireless companies has turned on now too. And they're doing well.
And I think that part of the thing too is it depends on who you're gonna be served by.
Right.
You know, like, I
Absolutely.
remember we had the meeting here, in Leebeck Road, where I live, one half is covered by ARPA funds, the other half of the road is not for some reason covered, so that's like that patching in with NBC. So, but I believe it's, maybe we can put this on our website, but there was that interactive map that they had, and it's still out there where you can go in and search your address and it'll pull up and you can click on it and it'll tell you. I don't know if they update that, but that's still active.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're definitely on track.
I haven't talked with Chris, I'll call him.
Our house was the same way. Our house and the other two houses on our side of the road, we're not getting service. And of course, they're not gonna go down the road and not service, you know, but still, it was just kind of ironic. That this area right in here, at least we'll be in the city, my road. But the interactive map is still up. And it's working.
Do you have that interactive map link?
It's a matter of whatever's on.
Yeah, Chris utilizes that Facebook page to his advantage, that for information out and to gather information in. And people that were responding to it well. So, I mean, I responded to him. I forgot to put my address. He goes, you don't need to put your address. I know where you are.
Just a great thing to think that, in a little over a year.
I know, especially when I had to give Kathy an update today on Air Advantage. You know, our internet was going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And it was rough to get things done. You know, and finally, yesterday they told me, well, basically, you're out of luck. Because the trees have grown up, the foliage is up. And the way it's an uphill climb to the water tower. And he said if they came out, they were out Saturday, Friday, I don't know, Friday or Saturday. Anyways, if they came out that day to install us, they would have said, nope, see you later. Service is that bad. So we have to deal with it, or we have to put a tower up, or we have to cut treetops out, or.
No, wait, you used to put in pipelines. And then, if you don't have great wireless, then you'll have great solar.
Right.
That was the whole thing.
Right.
About all three.
Yeah, so hurry up, broadband.
Right.
Let's,
So hopefully it helps you a little bit.
I want to mention real quickly that Jane, Mayor Pacheco reached out to me and wanted to know if we wanted to, start interconnect conversations again. I know they had, thought the city had engaged someone as city manager and then it didn't pan out. I think they're making an offer to someone else. Originally, the mayor said we might want to wait, so I haven't really put a rush on this, but, I know that we wanted to meet and have a special meeting to talk about that, so I'm gonna reach out to you all here on the board and see if we can come up with a date and then, move forward with that. And I don't, again, without a city manager there, maybe it's just kind of to keep the idea rolling right now. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick was about fireworks, and I want to mention one of the differences, and I talked a little bit about Patrick with this, is when the Bollingers came in, that was a private display. So they didn't invite people, you couldn't just as a public person go to the bowling, I mean, like, you know, really you couldn't go there, it wasn't a public display. And those have different parameters. Robin Hills is a public display, anybody can come. And there's a form that you fill out from the state of Michigan, it's a fireworks application that goes to the township, and it asks how many people. And for Robin Hills, I think it anticipated 800 people, just a lot of people, and our ordinances, once you have more than 350, I think. It kind of kicks in these other things, so while it seems like it's fireworks, they're really very different. There's a public display and a private display, the number of people attending. I mean, if we went and counted heads at Bollinger's, or people that pulled off on the side of the road, I don't know, we might be close. But, I just wanted to mention that, because that was a little bit, it's just a little bit of a different thing. But I appreciate all the comments tonight that people talked about the commission and so forth, so thank you for expressing concerns.
If it doesn't rain, you might have fireworks anywhere.
I know, that's true. And you know, originally they wanted to do it this year, and I think, you know, once it got a little complicated, the chamber's doing it, but it's at Robin Hills, so I think, they ended up saying, you know what, we'll do it next year. When I talked to Terrace Aaron's from the chamber, he really didn't seem like he had hard feelings. You know, he had a couple questions that I talked through with them. But I was looking forward to the idea of local fireworks for sure, so hopefully it can come together. So,
was putting on the fireworks at Boston.
correct.
Yes.
And the event was at Robin Hills.
Then you love them still charging for all those things. You're making money from the chamber's fund, and that was kind of.
But I don't know how they're working it, I don't know, but I know that the chamber came in with the application to do a public display at Robin Hills, so, yeah. So anyway, hopefully we can get that together for next year. Any more comments? All right, I guess we'll have a motion to adjourn at 7:52.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Will say nay. Okay, thank you.
Last thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We're hungry.
So you have to pick them all and get them out of there.
Now they're sitting beside the.
Yeah.
Used to do this, they'll throw them in the place. They rock. Pretty used to it around.